Now to make this pomegranate wine, I'll be using the following. I have roughly 10 pounds, or approximately 18, pomegranates. I have 4 cups, or approximately 1 liter, of granulated sugar. This time around, I'm just going to be using bread yeast for both our yeast nutrient and as our fermenting yeast. Having a good heavy spoon or a nice wooden rod would be helpful to help beat out some of the seeds inside the pomegranates. Now, one method of extracting the juice from the seeds is to use a potato masher, or if you have a blender, or if you have a food processor, whatever works for you to extract the juice, that's what you use. Now, since I don't have a fine mesh strainer, but I do have fine mesh straining bags, I'll be using a straining bag to help squeeze out as much of those juice as possible. You'll need a gallon of clean filtered water at the ready. We won't be using that much, but it's good to have on hand. Now, in this particular case, we'll be using a demijohn, carboy, jug, recycled wine jug, take your pick, to ferment our wine. Now, it would also be helpful if you had a secondary jug, carboy, demijohn, or in this case, recycled apple juice bottle, to help continue on with fermentation when we later on in the weeks coming up rack from our primary fermenter into our secondary fermenter. Of course, we're going to need an airlock with bung. Going to be using an 8-quart pot with tight-fitting lid. It would be helpful, although not essential, to have a hydrometer with testing tube to help determine our alcohol levels or to determine if there's going to be any problems with fermentation down the road. And of course, we want to make sure that all of our equipment has been properly cleaned and sanitized prior to use. For that, whether it's one step, Star San, or whatever food-grade alternative you're using, just follow manufacturer's directions. Now, of course, there are links to basically most of this stuff in my description and comment sections of the video. And this is what I'm going to be using to make this wine. Well, one of the first things we need to do is we need to get these pomegranate kernels out of the pomegranate. So let's go ahead and start that process. All right, I guess this is where the spoon or the stick comes in. See if this works. Well, kind of, sort of. It's like you're going to be beating this an awful lot. But it does seem to work. Okay. Well, that's one pomegranate. Okay, if while in the process you run across some pomegranates that have seeds, or let's just say areas that you wouldn't want to eat, well, you don't want those in your wine either. So you just might want to just put those aside. All right, that's enough of that. Now, this channel likes to assume that you might not have the latest and greatest time-saving kitchen appliances to make your life a whole lot easier. So if this is all you've got, or some variation of it, then this is what you got to do. You scoop and start smashing. Now, in doing so, you're going to find out that these things like to spray out droplets all over the place. I've got stuff already coming out here. So one way of doing that is to pour a little bit of sugar, which kind of help absorb some of the splatter, provides a little bit more friction, and you can do it like so. Once you've done a fair amount, then get those in a straining bag that's sitting inside a bowl and grab another batch. Now, if you do have a time-saving kitchen appliance, you might as well go ahead and make use of it. Using this anymore. Now, all right. That having been done, I think I'll get these into measuring cups and find out just how much juice I've actually extracted. Okay, looks like I'm coming in at 6 and just a little over half a cup of juice. I would have preferred 8, but 6.5 is what I got, and that's what I'm going to work with. All right, in the kitchen, what we want to do is that we want to go ahead and take 5 cups of our water. Go ahead and put that in our pot. Put a lid back on. Let's bring this up to a boil. With our water now up to a nice and good boil, go ahead and take a half a teaspoon of our bread yeast. Let's just go ahead and sprinkle that in. Reason we're putting in a half a teaspoon now is that we want that bread yeast to be good and dead so that it can act as a yeast nutrient to our other yeast that we're going to be putting in later on. I can just go ahead and turn off the heat at this point. And for a moment, I'm going to put the lid back on. All right, let's go ahead and incorporate our 4 cups of sugar. And with that having been done, let's go ahead and start adding in our pomegranate juice. Trying to get as much of it in there as I possibly can. Go ahead and incorporate that. And put our lid back on. And let's let this come down to room temperature. Now that our pomegranate juice mixture has come down to room temperature, let's go ahead and transfer that into our carboy. Right? And since we're coming up just a little bit short, I want to take the opportunity to do one thing real quick before bringing the level up a bit. One, since I have a cap, I want to make sure that's on nice and tight. And two, I want to go ahead and give that a quick vigorous shake. Reason being, I just want to incorporate a little bit more oxygen into the mix. And make use of my funnel once again, and using some of the remaining water that we started with. Let's go ahead and bring that level up a bit. To about yay high. Now this is a 4-liter container as opposed to the 1 gallon. So if you're using a 1 gallon jug, make your adjustments accordingly. Give that a little bit more of a shake just to incorporate everything. All right. It's now time for me to take a hydrometer reading. And it looks like that hydrometer reading is coming in at 1.110. Now to begin the actual process of turning our juice into wine, we need to add half a teaspoon of our red yeast. This time alive and kicking. Kind of hard to spread it around, so we're just going to do what I normally don't do, is dump it in. And use my cap for the moment. And kind of swirl it around to incorporate. Now that our yeast is technically beginning to rehydrate, coming alive, it's going to eventually begin to produce CO2 while it's chowing down on all of that sugar and oxygen we've got in there. So in order to keep CO2 from building up and becoming an explosive situation, we're using airlock. And basically, this is a style of airlock that I normally tend to use. I've got it filled up to the levels with a mixture of water and a little bit of diluted star sand. And again, the purpose of that is twofold. One, to let CO2 escape, and two, keep bugs from getting in. All right, just to keep the record straight, we're going to go ahead and label our creation so that we know what we're doing later on down the road. Don't forget some basic information. One, we are making a pomegranate wine. And this is the date we started. Usually that's the date that I usually put in the yeast because that's the date where things really start to happen. And it was on 11/11/2023. Our original gravity reading started out at 1.110. And that's really, for me, the basic information I need to keep track of later on down the road. Okay, now that we've started the process of making it, what do we do next? Well, we're going to put this away in a closet, keeping it at relatively cool if possible, but room temperature if that's what you got. And for the next, I'd say 4 weeks or so, we'll probably keep track of the amount of sediment that's developing at the bottom of the carboy. Part of that's going to be some pomegranate sediment, and the remainder of it is going to be the dead yeast that's going to begin settling down to the bottom. I mean, after they've done the roll, propagated, started making a little bit of alcohol, they will eventually begin to die off. And at that point in time, we'll just go ahead and rack it or transfer it off of that layer of sediment into our secondary carboy. And we'll keep that process going maybe once, maybe twice until we consider the wine to be done. Now, technically, yeah, you could start drinking it after 10 days, but if you want something that looks and tastes a whole lot better, I suggest go ahead and get and wait for the next several months. Me, I like to do the remaining operations of the process and at about the 11th, 12 months stage, where I go through the process of taking a final hydrometer reading, then degassing it, back sweetening it, pasteurizing it, bottling it, labeling it, corking, the whole 9 yards. And I have standalone videos for all of that in my winemaking operations playlist on my channel page. But beyond that, again, all of the equipment that you see here, you can find links in my Amazon links. I am an Amazon affiliate. And again, this stuff doesn't cost a whole heck of a lot. Recycled materials, wine jugs, recycled wine bottles. I will suggest going out and spending a few dollars on airlocks and bungs. You might want to step up your game and get a hydrometer. But again, if you're going to take this on as a hobby, you can do this all at your leisure. So there we go. If you like what you see here, please click on that like and subscribe button. Better yet, become a member. Better yet, become a Patreon. So I'll see you in 12 months when I do the 12-month taste testing. Okay, it's been a year and 9 days since I first started making this pomegranate wine. Made pomegranate wine before using just pomegranate juice, and that worked out pretty well. Well, it was kind of tart, but it worked out okay. This one was made using fresh pomegranates and trying something a bit different. This time I decided to chop up the little kernels of pomegranate juiciness, uh, seeds and all, even though it broke in. I'll go with broke. It broke a cardinal rule that you don't chop up seeds when you're making wines because it could introduce bitterness. Well, if you can eat pomegranate seeds whole, and you should be able to use it to make a wine. That was the premise of making this pomegranate wine. Okay, particulars. Born 11/11/2023. ABV came in at 14.44%. It was not back sweetened. Didn't have to back sweeten this one. And since I didn't have to back sweeten it, it was not pasteurized. That being said, I mean, it came in fairly clear. You probably see it better in the glass, or with a little luck, if it'll focus in, and it won't. It came in clear. Okay, yeah, good. We're going to get right into this one. Let's see. This was bottled 4 days ago. So it's been sitting on my dining room table for the past 4 days, waiting for me to do this video, waiting for me to get around to doing this video. And before I begin pouring it, if you're wondering what these 2 gallon batches are sitting here for, these are my last 2 batches of wine I'll be making for this channel. One was a kiwi lime, which just needs to be back sweetened and pasteurized. No, let me rephrase that. Back sweetened, bottled, pasteurized, corked, labeled, and then do the video. I will say on the onset, since I did do a hydrometer reading, uh, before I back sweeten anything. This came in at a very healthy 17 point something percent. Yeah. The other one, which will be the last one, is the honeydew melon wine. After that, I'll do the wrap up. Thank you all for, joining my channel and all that sort of thing. And that will be that. All right. Let's go ahead and pour this. Hmm. Hmm. when I do that sniff test, yeah, you're going to smell the alcohol, but that's not really the point. That's not really the whole point. The point is whether or not you can actually smell the pomegranate. Does it smell like it's supposed to smell like? If I'm making pomegranate wine, I want that to smell like pomegranates, hopefully. Um, mm, I don't care what anybody says. If you've got pomegranate seeds and you want to make a pomegranate wine, seeds and all, go for it. I don't think it matters that much with pomegranate. I mean, it still has a nice pomegranate tart taste to it. I was glad I didn't have to back sweeten it. Sweetness came in almost on point. It's sweet. It's not overly sweet. Um, I want to say it's somewhere between semi-dry and just a tad bit on the sweet side, but not really sweet. I'll go with semi-dry. I should have took a hydrometer reading after I back sweetened it, but it's too late now. It's been bottled. How can I going through all that? Just to the hydrometers. A little bit on the side. You need that hydrometer reading to get you your first hydrometer reading. Okay, when you first start out, how much sugar are you starting with in your batch of wine? Then, when you're ready to start bottling it, you take another hydrometer reading and find out how much sugar is left, and then you do the calculations to find out how much alcohol you've made. Um, every once in a great while, I'll take a hydrometer reading after it's been back sweetened, just so I can kind of give you an idea of just how sweet it is. But generally, they come in for the most part semi-dry, which for me is kind of on the sweet side. Don't know why, but I'm not drinking it dry. I gotta have some sugar in it. Now, having wasted all that time to say all of that, what does it taste like? It's tart, but not overly tart. It's not overwhelmingly tart. Again, it had the natural residual sweetness, which is good. Uh, 14.45, nope, 14.44%. It'll be a nice wine to have, definitely with dinner. Uh, I think it's well enough where I'm going to set aside one of these next time I see my son, next time I'm in Detroit. Um, yeah, this one is his. I'm going to save that one. Uh, but overall, yeah, it's not bad. Seeds and all. Mm. Yeah. For me, this turned out just right. Uh, any additional sugar would make it sweeter. But let's just be honest, when you're eating pomegranate, you're really not eating it for the sweetness. You want that tart pomegranate taste, which is what you've got here, toned down just slightly. If I back sweetened it and then pasteurized it, that would have toned it down even more. But since that wasn't necessary, and I'm glad that it wasn't, it's turned out okay. Although this kiwi wine at 17 point whatever percent, when I measured it yesterday, kind of looking forward to doing this one. This one today will be bottled, no, back sweetened, bottled, again, pasteurized, corked, labeled, and video. So, keeping it short, seeds and all, it's turned out okay. See you in the next video. And well, actually, this one is due on the 20th, and that's like today. But I'm not doing a video for a bit. Maybe next week. We'll give this one a shot. So I'll see you in the next video.